Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1966 to take a look at the Four Seasons, and they're going to be performing Working My Way Back to You. So let's get these guys up on screen, see how they get on. I'm just going to jump in here. As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can watch it the whole way through. It is a difficult one to jump into because it is such a great song, but also the way that it starts straight into the chorus so that immediately we're full in to the tagline of the song, and the melody is right in your face and it's so catchy. And a lot of the big hits in the 60s use this. They just went straight into the chorus. They didn't have a prolonged intro into a verse, into a pre-chorus, and then a chorus. They just jumped straight to the meat and bones of the song. And we also will have a key change in this performance and with the song that we will be looking at later when we get there. But there is so much that is unique about this performance, but their overall sound, because of the way that Frankie Valli, by the way, on lead vocal here, produces his sound. This performance is relevant to the other videos that I've done this week, talking about chest voice, mixed voice, head voice, falsetto, and spotting when a singer's in a particular register. The interesting thing about this is when I've seen Frankie interviewed, he says that he could just do these sounds naturally and he didn't know what part of his voice he was using. He thought that everybody could do it. So when anybody sings, they have a unique vocal tone and texture to their voice that is made up with their resonance chamber, their head. As I've said before, we all look different, therefore we're going to sound different because of all the sound waves hitting different angles in our head and a different sound resonating, but also the physical makeup of our voice boxes and our vocal cords. And all of these things that add together to give you a unique sound. And two people aren't going to sound the same off the street when they sing. Having said that, the tone that Frankie produces naturally is such a head voice sound compared to a chest voice sound. So if I was to sing this, it would sound like this. I've been working my way back to you, babe. That's just what my tone is, and that's what it sounds like. If I was trying to change my tone and put a different texture on it and get a little bit more of a head voice sound, it would probably sound a little bit like this. I've been working my way back to you, babe. So totally different sounds tonally, and the textures going on are different, but this is where you'll find that singers have a different natural tone and texture to their voice, and their voices sit in different places. Some people have booming chest voice sounds, and other people have a thinner vocal quality. And what tends to happen is the guys that have a thinner vocal quality, more of a head voice sound and less of a chest voice sound, take their range higher up because they're naturally thinning out the voice. And this is something that Frankie did automatically. He didn't train himself to thin out the voice. It's just what he did. And that's why he can hit these high notes, because the voice is already thinned out naturally. Just a quick word on the performance. Frankie's vocal is live. It's a really dry sound we've got on the mic as well, but I think it is a backing track because we can't see the horn section or the drummer, and the guys don't seem to be plugged in from the still that we're looking at here, guitar-wise, but definitely live from Frankie's point of view, and also these guys could do it live. We all know that. But the things to look out for with this performance is the way that Frankie transitions vocally from falsetto into his chest voice. And it is so smooth. At 56 seconds in this performance, you can rewind it and have a listen to the way that Frankie just descends into his chest voice from about to go, and then living is the word where he's back into his chest voice, and about to go was in falsetto. It is such a smooth transition that you hardly notice it. There is another point in the video where we get to hear this again. In fact, it's in 5 seconds time. So when we resume the video at 1 minute and 55 seconds, we can hear Frankie descend out of his falsetto into his chest voice. And the reason that it sticks out is because he just misses the note ever so slightly, and that's why it's so difficult. There has to be some kind of flip in the voice between falsetto and any other register, and you can just hear it. But the first time he does it in the verse, he's absolutely dead on, and you probably won't even notice it because he's so good at doing it. You really have to listen carefully to hear this vocal register change at 1 minute and 55 seconds. The other thing about this performance is the pitch accuracy, because Frankie doesn't have a wide vibrato here. It's pretty subtle, so he is dead on with the pitches throughout this performance. And just to put things in perspective note-wise, because in the verse, when Frankie does flip up into his falsetto, he's hitting a B4 and a C5, and that's just one note apart. A B4 goes into C5 because C is where the next octave starts. And that B4 and C5, he's just floating up to that in his falsetto. And it just seems so easy for him to do that. You might be able to just tell the slight tonal change we have in his vocal when he is in falsetto, then coming back down into his chest voice. This is the thing about falsetto. It can't be blended with those other registers, such as chest and head voice. So it means there's got to be a break in there. So in the verse, you can hear the way that Frankie just breaks off into falsetto and then covers these notes, the B5 and the C5, and then has to transition back down into his chest voice. And that's the really smooth transition that he gets. You can hear it, it's in there. There's always going to be a little vocal break between those registers because you can't blend them. You can't start singing in chest voice and then go up into falsetto, because in falsetto, the vocal cords are apart, whereas in chest voice and head voice, they are together. So chest voice and head voice, you can blend those two together fine, but falsetto, it's never going to happen. We're going to be getting back into the video, but listen out for, at 1 minute and 55 seconds, the way that Frankie comes out of his falsetto sound into his chest voice sound. And this is the thing, that top singers like Frankie could come out of that falsetto sound, and the note where the voice breaks back into chest voice was accurate. He could control the note where his voice breaks and flips back down into chest voice. So we'll have a listen out for that, and we'll get back into the performance. And there we have it. Obviously, the video is about to cut out, so I'm stopping it there. Another thing to put a little bit of a spotlight on, just one word, the way that Frankie nails the pitch every time on way. It is so solid, his work vocally from a pitch perspective throughout this whole performance. Something that happens in this performance vocally that is really interesting to look at from that vocal register point of view is the way that we have this key change. First of all, Frankie sings notes from the key that they're about to transition into before we get there. And it is so impressive to be able to sing a line from a different key before you're in that key over the top of the original key, because it doesn't really relate. And it's something that obviously works when you're going into another key. It's another thing that you can look at musically that happens all the time with guitar riffs and vocals. You can sing in the next key before you get there, and it's going to lead whatever you're playing into that next key. So the thing to appreciate about this key change is it's not a semitone, and that's what normally happens with bands with the last chorus. They'll just take up a semitone, make it a little bit more exciting by increasing that pitch by one note. And it's not a tone, so that means 2 notes higher, which is something else that is common, but you've got to have a vocalist that has the ability to sing a whole tone higher than they have previously in the other choruses. Here, we've got a tone and a half that we are increasing the pitch by at the end of the song, which means it's 3 notes higher. And that means that Frankie is now having to sing the chorus in the same range that he was using his falsetto for earlier. And falsetto, with that register, you can just float up there. You don't really have to worry about taking your chest voice up there because you can't anyway. It's a totally different register. Whereas now, Frankie's having to get these top notes. And by the way, it's a high C, a C5, the male tenor range, something that I've mentioned in other videos, being the holy grail because it is a very high note. That is now what he's having to reach in his chest voice. So that first half of the chorus, after the key change as well, is all one continuous phrase. It has to be sung in the same vocal register, so you can't break off into falsetto for that. Then you get a breath, and then for With a Burning Love Inside, that is where the C5 comes in, and that is on Burning Love, so it's on the ing of burning. I'm going to give this a go without warming up my vocals, but let's see what happens. So it should be with a burning love inside. That with a burning love inside. That all has to be connected. You cannot go to falsetto for that because it's all one vocal phrase. And if you were to go to falsetto, it would sound stupid because your vocal cords would have to come apart. That burning word are 2 separate pitches. You've got to use the same register for that. So at the end of the song, like I said, the key change is going up a tone and a half here. So it's a massive change in order for the vocalist to try and stick with it and sing exactly what he has been singing earlier, but 3 notes higher. So a really interesting video to look at from a vocal perspective, putting the spotlight on Frankie, but also let me just give a shout out to Tommy DeVito, Joe Long, Bob Gardio as well, the other 3 in the band, if you don't know who I'm talking about, because it was such a great quartet vocally and having the ability to harmonize with each other live. I know that this is a backing track that we're listening to, but these guys we know could do it live. And The Jersey Boys is one of those West End musicals that is massively popular here in London because of the songs. There are so many massive hits that the Four Seasons had. And they were one of those rare bands that managed to survive the British invasion and kept their popularity because in the mid-60s, every other band seemed to fall by the wayside because of that British invasion, but not these guys. So I'll probably revisit these guys in the future, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, as you might also know them, because There's such an interesting story behind all of their hits, and Frankie as a vocalist being so unique, singing on the Grease theme song, and that was such a massive hit. The movie, but also working with the Bee Gees, who were a massive fan of his, and he was a fan of the Bee Gees, and all the hits that they've had. I won't have time to go through all of them in this video. Like I said, I'll revisit it in the future. But thank you guys so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!